Each and every one of you watching this video right now has a deep, strong voice somewhere there inside of you. And it's possible that you just haven't discovered it yet. So I'm here to give that voice a voice. So it's no secret that people with strong, commanding voices are perceived as higher status and of greater value to society. The reason being is that deep, intimidating voices give the subconscious this idea of trustworthiness and of better leadership. So you can bet that if a company is considering promoting one of two people, one of which has a strong commanding voice and the other that does not, you can put money that they will promote the man with a higher, more intimidating voice. And going back to what I said earlier, I know that all of you guys have that type of voice inside of you. And it's very probable that you have been cloaking this voice with stress, tenseness, and overall bad habits. So I'm gonna give you a handful of tips right now on how to give that voice life. And then towards the end of the video, if you're still a bit unsure, I'm gonna give you one mega move that guarantees a deep, intimidating voice in 30 minutes. Let's talk about this. The first problem that I see with people is that they're speaking from their throats and their chest. It's so easy when you're in a stressful situation where it's high energy and there's people all around you to get tense and all of your energy is moved up towards your neck and your chest area. Just like a guitar string, if you pluck it lower, it's gonna be much more low pitch. But if you pluck it higher, it's gonna be so much more higher pitch. So what we wanna do is practice relaxing and speaking from our belly. It gives it depth, it gives it freedom to breathe, and it gives you the acoustic capability to be projected towards the people that you're speaking to. When you talk, from your neck, from your chest, it only has a couple inches to be projected throughout. It doesn't have time to build that acoustic capability, right? So you wanna relax, open up your airways, open up your vocal cords, and give your words room to be projected. Your real voice is that deep acoustic voice coming from your belly. People think that their real voice is when they're in a high energy mood, a stressful situation, and the voice is coming from their neck and their chest. And it ends up sounding like this. Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. I sometimes even fall into these rhythms when I'm doing YouTube, when I'm, stressed out a bit, I'm trying to rush a video or something like that. I get high energy, hey guys, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. When in reality, my real voice is much deeper, comes from the belly, has room to be heard, right? So give it a try right now. Try speaking from your belly as opposed to speaking from your neck and your chest. Right? My next huge tip for you guys is tonality. There's three types of tonality. There's report seeking, report neutral, and report breaking. Report seeking is very beta and very insecure. It's the type of voice where you put yourself lower status than others, mainly because the way you talk is very high energy, very tense, but also it curves up towards the end of what you're saying. Let me give you an example. Hey, how are you? You notice how it's very tense, kind of a higher pitch, but also it curves up. You sound a bit unsure of yourself as you're saying it, more as a question than a comment. You want to try at all possible to stay away from a report-seeking tone of voice. You want to be in that more report neutral tone. And I'll give you an example of that. Report neutral is how I talk with you guys, how you talk to your friends. Your friends that perceive you on an equal playing field as them. They don't see you as inferior and they don't see you as superior. It might be your coworker. Often you run into trouble where coworkers will talk to you in a report breaking tone, which we'll get into a bit later, and you have to shut that down, shoot that down. You can't let them talk to you like that. You don't have to let them put you in a report seeking tone. So this is what it looks like. Hey, how you doing? It's not super dynamic, it's pretty static the whole way. If anything, it actually drops a bit towards the end. That tells the person that you are not gonna let them put you in an inferior state. They are not your superior. You guys are equals in this scenario. This is kind of where you want to stay. This is how you want to talk to girls that you're interested in, even bosses. You don't want to let your boss put you in an inferior state, right? So you talk to them, report neutral. And the last tone is report breaking. You see this a lot with people in positions of power. People like police officers, teachers, principals, correction officers, things of that sort. It's very stern, it's very harsh, it's never high-pitched, and it's always dropping off towards the end. Kind of like we talked with report neutral. Let me give you an example of what that sounds like. How are you doing today? You know, license and registration. It's a very dominating tone, and it's not very pleasant. People don't generally want to be friends with you when you talk to them that way. So that's why you want to stick to the report neutral tone, you know. People will respect you, but they will also realize that you are not to be messed with. You will not stand for being put down. And the great thing about this is that you can start this tomorrow. You can change this immediately and people will immediately perceive you a different way. They won't know what it is, but something about you seems higher status, higher value, better leadership skills. Overall, they will realize that you view yourself as higher value, higher status, and in turn, they will think the same of you. So even if you don't have a naturally deep, intimidating voice, a combination of these past two tips will give you the edge on 99% of the population. But even if you guys are a bit unsure about all this, you're not sure if you'll make it sound forceful, you might not be able to successfully change your tonality, you might sound kind of dumb or silly, I have one tip that cannot go wrong. Maybe you have a big interview coming up. You're a little bit nervous about changing your tonality, trying to change the projection of your voice. You can use this tip immediately and it will give you that deep masculine voice that you've always wanted. So you know how when you go to a big sporting event or you're in a setting where it requires a lot of yelling, you know, cheering, whatnot, and you tend to kind of exhaust your voice? Well, you guessed it, that's kind of the tip. I utilize this tip sometimes just to play around with it. I actually found out this trick by accident, and I'll tell you how it works. So what you want to do is slightly exhaust your voice. So what you do is just yell at the top of your lungs. Get really guttural with it, you know. Ah! And do that for about 15 seconds combined and really give it everything you got. Clear all that gunk out of your throat and get everything out of your chest that you can. And really just work your voice to the bone. But don't overdo it to the point where you lose your voice completely, because then you'll just be screwed. But if you do this right, about 15 clean seconds of yelling, maybe fluctuate your voice a little bit, 30 minutes later, your voice will be deep and intimidating. I was actually on my way to work once and there was some song on the radio, and just for fun, I was screaming along with it, you know, getting really into it, whatever, and didn't think much of it. I noticed that I was kind of losing my voice, but then by the time I got to work, when I talked, I had this deep, intimidating, commanding voice, and I could notice how people saw me in a different light at work. They perceived me as this man, this masculine man, as a leader, and they talked to me a different way. And it was very interesting. And ever since then, whenever I have a big event coming up, a big interview, I always do this. You have to practice it a little bit, guys, but once you get it down, you get the timing right, it sets you up for success in the long run. So I definitely recommend utilizing the first two tips that I mentioned before and use the last tip as a last resort. But it's really fun, really messes with people's minds a bit. It definitely puts you up here where before you would have been here, right? So combine all three of these, nothing can stop you. I'm all the way up. So that's it, guys, but real quick, I just wanted to shout out my YouTube peer, Baron Cruz, over at the Charisma Matrix. His whole channel is focused on charisma and how to, you know, increase your social value. So I definitely recommend checking him out. He can put all this stuff far better than I ever could. I just wanted to help you guys out as much as I can. Thought you guys might like to hear it from me. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other topics you want me to tackle, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, if you enjoyed it, subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss a thing. And until next time, peace out.